If you've been paying any attention to Jimmy Dore's YouTube channel, you probably noticed that the vast majority of content he's putting out there calls into question the efficacy of the vaccine, the coronavirus vaccine. And there are a bunch of intentional, lies in his coverage. And this one streamer and YouTuber named Sean decided to do a deep dive into Jimmy's content on this very issue. So one of the videos that we're about to show you, has just misleading or outright lies for Jimmy's followers in regard to the vaccine. We have a bunch of different clips, but let's start with the first one and then I'll give you some more context.
So the article starts out, highly vaccinated Singapore is battling a record wave of COVID-19 infections just as the city plans to reopen to the world. But Singapore's 80% vaccination rate has kept severe cases and deaths down, potentially proving that living with the virus versus trying to eradicate it is the surest path out of the pandemic. Now, here's how Jimmy Dore starts reading the article.
On Monday, Singapore recorded 1,647 cases of COVID-19, bringing its 7-day daily average to 1,545 cases, higher than any other previous wave of the pandemic.
So what he did there was skip the first paragraph, the one that states that Singapore's high vaccination rate has kept severe cases and deaths down, and he started reading at the second paragraph talking about the recent increase in COVID cases. So he's avoided mentioning the positive effects of the high vaccination rate there.
Now, in a later clip, we'll show you how Jimmy Dore also edited what was in the article in the graphic that he reads. But it's very clear here that he intentionally omitted the very paragraph that Sean is referencing here, the one that talks about the high vaccination rate and how, the vaccine protects people from getting tremendously sick, from getting hospitalized, from dying. Yes, there is still a possibility of a so-called breakthrough infection, although the likelihood of getting a breakthrough infection is lessened thanks to the vaccine. But you can still get an infection, and even if you do, the possibility of you being, hospitalized or dying from coronavirus is just completely minimized. He intentionally left that information out when he was sharing his thoughts on that reporting.
Yeah, and I thought this guy, Sean, did a brilliant job with the video. And we'll put the link down below. You should watch the whole thing. It takes a while, but it's really worth it. So he has the receipts. But the most interesting part of it is why Jimmy does it, right? And how he used to be in favor of the vaccine, and then you see him switch on video to being against, implying that he is against the vaccine with plausible deniability. And part of the reason he has to deny that he's against it is to not get banned by YouTube. But the other reason is because everybody knows that back when he was pro-vaccine, he took the vaccine. So, and just like all the other right-wingers now, he's trying to trick his own audience to risking their lives by not taking the vaccine when he's perfectly safe being vaccinated.
Because it has been pretty profitable for him. These are the types of videos that tend to do really well on his channel. Now, in talking about the same article, Sean noticed that the graphic that included an excerpt from that article had been edited in a very specific way. Let's watch the video so you'll see how.
The article says, throughout July and August, cases in Singapore ticked up to over 100 per day after nearly a year of almost no infections due to the city's previous zero-tolerance policy. Emphasis on the word previous there. Then it goes on to say that policy included stay-at-home orders, intensive testing, and so on. Jimmy Dore's text says the speed at which cases have climbed despite policies including stay-at-home orders, intensive testing, and so on. He snips out the sentence, making it clear that these policies were the previous policies, the policies that were lifted, and he puts the word despite in there. Now, the word despite is not in this paragraph in the original article, and this makes it seem like these policies are current, ongoing policies. He's rewriting what the article says to make it say something different.
Now, Cenk, you and I have both experienced how the Jimmy Dore show likes to take things out of context and likes to edit video, for instance, to make things appear as something that doesn't really exist in reality. That's his bread and butter. That's what he does. But he'll tell you that, you can't blame him. He's just a jagoff comedian. I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing. So, he doesn't want to take the blame for intentionally misinforming his audience.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, everything with him is plausible deniability, right? So I'm a jagoff comedian that shields me from any legitimate critique. But at the same time, I'm the most honest, the most researched, the one who knows all the truth. So I'm the only one you should trust. And remember, when I get everything wrong, I'm just a jagoff comedian. So, but in this case, it isn't about getting it wrong. And that's why this video that Sean did is devastating. So he starts with the selective quoting. We just gave you one example, but Jimmy does it many times. But that one you could say, well, now hold on, that depends. Not everybody's going to read the whole. In fact, no one is going to read the whole article on there. And you could pick quotes from an article. That everybody does that, right? Now, when you take quotes that make the article seem like something it's not, well, that's misleading. And so Jimmy's definitely doing that with this article, as Sean explains. But even so, the next layer, the one we just showed you, is totally unacceptable by any measure or standard. When you change the words of the article for it to then say the opposite of what it said, because the word "despite" in that edit changes the meaning to the opposite of what the article was actually saying. So there's no excuse for that. That's just, I'm lying to my audience on purpose, and I'm not telling them. Like when you're doing a quote, you're supposed to do ... If you're taking certain things out, he doesn't do that. You're supposed to fix the grammar, etc. He doesn't do any of that, so that people know, oh, this is not the whole quote. But on top of that, when he adds the word "despite," that changes the meaning of what they were saying. He is very purposely lying to you guys. And guys, understand too, that means he thinks, I could just lie to these guys. They're schmucks, they'll never figure it out.
Now, one other thing that stood out in the lengthy video that Sean did, and it really was well done. It was just, the research was impeccable. But one of the things that also stood out was the fact that Jimmy Dore had very clearly promoted ivermectin for usage that it was not approved for, and then turned around and denied it, okay? So here's the part of Sean's video that I'm referring to.
Now, did you hear me say that ivermectin has been proven to treat COVID? And that because it won the Nobel Prize in medicine in 2015, that means it could treat COVID? I never said that, did I? I didn't say anything like that.
So according to Jimmy Dore, he's never said anything like the claims in the article. He's never said ivermectin is effective in treating COVID. However,
widespread distribution of ivermectin proves effective in Mexico against COVID-19. This has been suppressed. And now we're finding out that ivermectin treats this, COVID. That if you just use ivermectin, and by the way, this data has been out there for a while.
Uh-oh.
I mean, he also said something very similar during his podcast with Joe Rogan. And of course, since that's Joe Rogan's property, the video itself, Jimmy doesn't have the privilege of deleting that content from YouTube or from Spotify. And so that exists, and you can see it for yourselves. So it's just hilarious how he keeps finding himself in these situations over and over again. He keeps embarrassing himself. Just very similar to what we experienced with Dave Rubin. He was a little bit more sophisticated than Dave Rubin, but not by much in the grift that he's engaging in here.
Yeah, so there's different layers of deception than there's why. So in the case of ivermectin, the usual deception that Jimmy and Rogan and others do is it won the Nobel Prize. It's also for humans. It's not just for ivermectin, not just for horses, right? But they don't finish the sentence. Yes, but what did it win the Nobel Prize for? It didn't win it for treating coronavirus. It won it for treating the worm, a tapeworm. whether it's in horses or it's in humans. It's a dewormer. It's like saying, you know what's the best thing to treat a coronavirus? Albert Einstein. Why? He won the Nobel Prize. He won the Nobel Prize. That's why you got to get it. Albert Einstein is pictures of him and smear it all over yourself. It's just as logical. It makes no sense at all. But yet when they do this very simple thing of like, it's for humans and it won a prize, unfortunately, most of their audience goes, that's good enough for me. I don't need logical reasoning. But in this case, Jimmy goes further. And he did say that ivermectin was effective in treating COVID. You see it there. And he knows he's lying, so then he tries to delete, right? And so that's the extra layer of deception with Jimmy Dore. So now, why does he do it? I think that's the most interesting part of the story. Audience capture. So you see his earlier videos, and the ones that were pro-vaccine, they do okay. They do okay. They 50,000, 100,000, but mainly under 100,000. And Sean shows it in the video, okay? Then he does the anti-vaccine videos. There's a lot more of them, and they're all over 100,000. Some are 300,000, etc. Because a guy like Jimmy, all he cares about is the money, Lebowski. So, and he used to say when he was on TYT, oh, somebody ever gave me money, I'd sell out. He said it a lot of times. And I thought he was kidding, because I thought he was a comedian. Well, I was wrong on both counts. So as soon as he sees the videos doing well, he's like, who cares about what's true? Who cares that I took the vaccine? There's easy ways to turn around here. Oh, I took the vaccine, but I got a little pain in my neck. Oh, my arm's a little sore. I got a little, hey, I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Just a jag-off comedian asking questions. Oh, that one got 200,000 views. Let's do it again, Steph. Let's do it again. We're gonna make money. That's Jimmy Dore. It's pathetic. The one last thing on Dumbledore, Hannah. So, in case you don't know what audience capture means, is that so when Jimmy starts, he first has a left-wing audience, but then he starts attacking left-wingers. Why? Because he wants to impress his left-wing audience as the most pure, the most left-wing. And so if he has insane ideas that no one will ever do, then he says, oh, you see that? They didn't do it because they weren't pure enough. But it's he's doing a left-wing racket, right? But when he starts criticizing the left wing so much, right-wingers start to come in and watch his videos. They're like, oh, you're bashing AOC and TYT and Amy Goodman and The Intercept. Oh, we like this guy a lot, right? And slowly his audience starts to get more and more right-wing. And then he sees, oh, when I do the right-wing ones, the algorithm rewards me. So he starts doing more and more right-wing videos. But he has to have plausible deniability. So he's like, no, I'm still a left-winger. Because part of the racket is pretending to be a left-winger while being a right-winger, which validates right-wing feelings. See, if he just came out and said, oh, I'm a right-winger now, it wouldn't be the same racket. That's why Dave Rubin for so long hung on to, I'm a classical liberal something, but no, the left is wrong about everything, including gay rights. Take them all away from me, right? And that was his racket. Now everybody's on to Dave's racket, so he's become boring. Jimmy doesn't want to become boring, so he's still pretending to be left-wing. Now his audience, if you look at any, like when he doesn't, now it's gotten so bad since the majority of his audience is right-wing, that when he does a left-wing video, it gets voted down. And he doesn't get as many views and he doesn't make as much money. So then he makes less and less left-wing videos. And what winds up at the end is he takes good, well-meaning folks and he treats them like dirt, like they're not gonna catch on to this, right? And he shepherds them or sheepherds them over to the right wing by pretending that the tough guy thing, the right thing, the left wing thing is to not listen to science, but only listen to right wing demagogues, right? And so at the end, he makes more money. The right wing gets some new left wingers in their camp, and they love his videos. And then he'll do that racket for as long as he can until finally he'll do the same thing as Dave Rubin. Well, look, guys, I was so frustrated. I tried everything I could with the left wing, but they just wouldn't listen. So I had to vote for Donald Trump. Or in Jimmy's case, he might extend it enough to Donald Trump Jr. I had to. It wasn't my fault. The left wing made me do it by being so unreasonable. They believe in scientists. Can you believe it? Scientists.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.